What's going on, guys? Good evening. Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Midweek settings, and it's time for a full view. It's time for a debate. Oh, we've got a lot to talk about this evening. We're going to be talking about everyone's favorite topic, which is Ruben Amorim. Tactics. Has there been adaptation? Has there been changes? Or are the players just starting to get up to pace with what Ruben's been asking? He's been asking this the whole time. We're going to be discussing it all. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Big up to the panel. Big up to Charlie. Big up to Kenny. Big up to DJ. And big up to Arthur making his debut on the full view this evening. Yes, a round of applause, folks. A round of applause. Yes. After a victory as well. I think he made his debut on the Sunderland fan view. So apparently that's when the run started, Arthur. So you're our good luck charm. You know what I mean? Not that we believe in jinxes.
Yeah, you guys have got to keep me now. Stop.
Exactly. This is going to be a fun show. This is going to be an interesting show. Just before we went live, Charlie said an interesting comment. He said, Twitter's been mad over the last few days. And I agree. Yes. Well, when isn't it? Of course. But it's been extra mad in the Manchester United sphere recently when it pertains to this run of success that Ruben Amorim has had back to back Premier League victories, 3 in a row for the first time in his Manchester United career. A real turnaround when it comes to home form. I think it's something like, 5 wins out of the last 7, up to competing for European spots possibly this season. The vibes are getting better. But the question is, has Ruben Amorim changed anything? There are 2 schools of thought here. There is one, which is, yes, he has tweaked something. I see these performances and we're going longer ball. We're playing to the strengths of the new players that we've got in Mbeumo and Cunha, and particularly Šeško, and Loman's in goal. He's going more direct. But others are saying, no, this has always been the tactics. The only difference is that these are different players, or the players are finally understanding what Ruben Amorim wants them to do. So the question we're going to be discussing this evening is, has Amorim tweaked and changed United's tactics? Charlie, I'll start with you. You are a resident tactical genius, some call you, along with Statman Cam, on Tactical View. Do you think Ruben Amorim has tweaked and changed things, or is this just the same as it's always been?
Well, I'm delighted to come on here after 3 wins, which has been really, really nice. And I do think I think I saw your tweet earlier, Owen, and I actually really agree with you. I think we always look at sort of, there's always sort of extremes going around online where you get one person that says, no, it's 100% this, and the other person says, no, it's 100% that. And I'd say it's a bit of a mixture, to be honest with you. So I think there has been clear tactical tweaks. I think if you actually look at the percentage of long balls we've been playing since don't get me wrong, we weren't building 100% out from the back, but when we had Bayindir in goal, I've rewatched like the Brentford game, the City game, etc. We played long balls here and there, but since Lemons has come in, since the Sunderland game, it's been a very, very high percentage of goal kicks have gone long. The other change I think we've seen is, I think our pressing shape has changed a little bit. I think we looked more like a 4-4-2, particularly against Brighton, out of possession, which is good because, especially with Ahmad, you can push Ahmad up the pitch a little bit more and your back 5 don't get pinned, which allows you, gives you a better base to work with. And we see a lot of teams using that 4-4-2 shape to press out of possession. It's just a lot better. And what that does is, as well, you get Brian and Mbeumo more central, and that gives you a better sort of, we've seen him as a sort of an outlet for the counter-attack, if you think about some of the goals he's scored. And then also Matheus Cunha, if you think about his defensive contribution against Brighton, that was probably as impressive as his sort of on-the-ball stuff. He was getting back that sort of left midfield role, and he was actually doing quite a lot of defending. And so also that's what the 4-4-2 gives you. And we have used the 4-4-2 before. I think we're seeing it a lot more than we did before. I think Matthias de Ligt has been very, very good recently. I think Luke Shaw's done very, very well. If you think about, like, against Brighton out of possession, the way they were going man-to-man on Rutter and Welbeck. So again, that's more sort of the players maybe having more confidence as well in the system, not just a tweak. Amorim's probably always wanted his centre-backs to do that, but why haven't they always been doing that? Could that be a little bit sort of to do with maybe their confidence, their belief in we're getting a few wins under our belt? And also, I think there's been a couple of other reasons that aren't tactical tweaks. Like, I think we've got a bit more fortune. I think against Liverpool, they hit the post 3 times. I think Gakpo hit the post 3 times. We missed a couple of penalties at the start of the season, but we've been a little bit more clinical in front of goal the last few games. And I think Sunderland and Brighton also just didn't turn up. Their players in general didn't really execute the plan their managers wanted to. So the way I put it is I think it's a bit of both. I don't agree with those that say it's purely sort of player based, and I wouldn't agree with those that say it's purely tactical based and we're going to be amazing under Amorim. These tweaks are going to. I think there's a little bit of both. I think we've had a bit more fortune in certain elements of the game, but I think he has made a few tweaks that are promising as well.
Big up to Steph and big up to Firms joining us. We are discussing if Ruben Amorim has tweaked and changed United's tactics. A very easy topic to discuss. No problems. It's going to be completely fine this evening. Kenny, I'll come to you next. You may mention before we went live, the last time we were all together, we were talking about how desperately bad shape the Man United were in and how things were going so wrong. Fast forward a few games, a few victories, and suddenly the perception of things can change. Is that the case, do you think, with Ruben's tactics? Has it just the perception of it changed, or has Ruben legitimately made some tweaks and changes here and there from what you've seen?
Yes, I definitely. Well, that's without a doubt, because what we don't do now is we don't play out from the back. We're much more of a direct team going forward, and we're looking for second balls in the middle. When if Sesko doesn't get the ball, or when Mount was on, or wherever, that ball is coming back to the middle, and we seem to be winning second balls in the middle, especially against Liverpool with McAllister and was it young Curtis Jones or wherever. But the thing that I'm liking about this system is I love our sides. This sounds daft, but our sides are working together. So, for example, I love how Ahmed and Mbeumo look on the pitch. They seem as though they're a fluid, kind of cohesive unit that works that right-hand side beautifully, superbly. Do you know what I mean? And Ahmed's keen to go past, and Mbeumo cuts in, and then Ahmed. But what I'm also noticing as well, and it goes back to what Charlie was saying about us reverting to a 4. When the camera comes off the pitch, you can see it more clearly, is that, Shaw will tuck in and then Dalot will come back or whatever once Ahmad goes forward. So all of a sudden, instead of we've not got two wingers bombing forward, we seem to have one who'll bomb forward, but the other will tuck in. So what that means is that the likes, if we do lose the ball, the likes of Casemiro and Bruno are not a 2. They're not a 2, because what's happening is either Ahmad's coming in from the right to support or Dalot's coming in from the left to support. But what you're also getting as well, Shaw, particularly at weekend, was more than happy to step into the middle. So you don't actually see it when the cameras are on the ball. But when the camera pans back, you can see that bigger picture, and we look a lot more solid in that back quarter of the pitch. So I think that to me is a big plus. It's a big plus. So we've not got people bombing forward, but when we do go forward, I just think it looks a lot more fluid, and the transitions are a lot quicker. We're not slow at moving the ball, or we haven't been slow around moving the ball, particularly around the box or whatever. I know Cunha, fantastic, and Sesko had a couple of shots or whatever, but sometimes with Ahmad's done it, we still have a tendency to shoot from outside the box instead of just create them little triangles a little bit more. I think once you get them triangles move. I thought Sesko was excellent. Some of his touches on weekend I thought were brilliant. I really did. I thought the lovely cushioning the ball, just passing it off or whatever, I thought was really good. And you don't particularly associate that with the big fella, but I thought it was really good. No, I just think De Ligt, Shaw, they look solid. They really do look solid. And I don't like to use XG and this, that, and the other, and so on and so on. But you can't deny the fact that from the number of shots that we seem to be having, the amount of possession, touches in the opposition box, we've gone from the lower quartile of the Premier League to we're in the top quartile. So you can't ask for a lot more. The one concern, and he's not moved away from this, he has a tendency to make too many substitutions, I think, at the wrong time. So I think we was comfortable at 3-0 and people weren't injured. But all of a sudden, we bring Xerxes on, we bring Kobbie Mainoo on, we bring Heaven on. All right, we can say they have minutes. But all of a sudden, I thought we lost a little bit of cohesion then, because we just made, he loves a 60-minute substitution, and it's usually one of his back four. We've not got games midweek. We're not playing 2 and 3 games a week. So for me, these professional footballers, it can't be fitness. Surely it can't be fitness as I get it with Casemiro, because he's not a young lad or whatever. Well, Casemiro at 60, 70 minutes, yeah, his legs maybe, and he may want Mainoo one. But when you do, why did Xerxes come on? Why did Xerxes come on? Why are we making so many changes? Because that does impact the game. That I can understand making changes if you're 2-0 down and you want something to change and some different patterns to happen on the pitch. But when you're comfortable, just see the game out. And if the players are not happy, well, just accept it. The fans are happy. But at 3-0, we were coasting. 3-0, we were coasting. Then all of a sudden we make changes. It's 3-2. And thankfully, Mbeumo goes up the field and gets the goal. Because if that had have ended up a draw, this would have been a completely different type of a show tonight, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, definitely.
No, it would, and it could have easily happened.
Oh, of course. Well, we've been, again, hypothetical FC, haven't we? We live in different realities, to get Marcel. Kamikaze says, saying tweak or change is 2 different things, but ultimately it's subjective. Some just want to save face after wanting Ruben out. It's a non-issue. I partially agree with different points of that, Kamikaze. I do totally agree that it's subjective, as is everything with football fan opinion, right? This is why we have these kind of discussions and debates. Some will probably think that Ruben has tweaked or changed things legitimately because they're like, oh, I went too early on the Ruben out thing. Some will say it because that's what they think. They've actually watched the games and they'll go, we're looking a little bit different here than we did last season. I was just reading an article from The Athletic, and they were talking about how we're like the highest for long passes now in the Premier League out of anyone. And that's like 17 places higher than when Ruben Amorim came in last season. And actually what Ruben Amorim did last season, that to me sounds like a bit of a change. But so I think some of it's saving face. I think some of it is because they see it. And I think on the other side of things as well, I think some people are so desperate to tell people that they were right that they're like, absolutely not, that didn't happen. I've been saying this the whole time and I'm right the whole time, That's where we're at, I think. Steph, I'll come to you next. What have you made of the turnaround in recent games? Is it just a case of players understanding more, or is it a case of Ruben understanding more about the Premier League and maybe tweaking some things?
I actually agree with Kamikaze in the sense of his super chat when he said there's a difference between tweaked and changed. It is subjective, but I also think it's semantics, which is kind of a bit worrying. I do think that we've seen a change from the matches that the games that we've seen recently in the results. Obviously, the major change is the most important one, which is that we've won them. We've won our past 3 games, so that's the most important change. Whether it's down to Amorim changing the system, the formation, the tactics, subbing people on the 60th minute, I don't necessarily think that he's changed all of that much. And I know there'll be people in the chat and some of you guys on the panel, you'll be like, oh, well, why is it that if you look at the stats, we're first in the league for long balls? But I would kind of counteract that and say, well, this is a growing trend in the Premier League, full stop. It's not just Amorim that's, everybody seems to be playing more direct. Everybody's focused more on free kicks, corners, trying to one-up wherever they can. I don't think it's like something different that Amorim's done. I also think it's very dangerous I say dangerous is a bit dramatic. It's a lot to assume that Amorim has deliberately changed his tactics to go long and direct now that we have Lemens and we've got Sesko. All of a sudden we've got a goalkeeper who can kick a pinpoint pass to a forward that's 6 foot. I don't know how tall he is, even very tall. What if Amorim wanted to do that last season, but he just didn't have the players to do that? I mean, if we look at Onana, yes, I understand when people say we were not playing pep ball, we're trying to play pep ball, playing out from the back, and like we're pressing differently now to how we were last season. But I also think there were times last season when Onana was kicking the ball long. and we were going direct. So there are examples that Amorim has told his players last year in matches, certain matches, depending on the opposition, to go long, to go direct. It's just that we didn't have the players to do it. So now I think all of that, and combining as well that the players are now gelling. So going back to what Kenny said, you know, you look at Mbeumo and Ahmad, like during the first games of the season, I don't think they really gelled. That was like a whole kind of thing. Now you look at them, it's so fluid. It's really, it's beautiful to see, honestly. There's obviously still room for improvement. I'm a perfectionist. I'm never happy, but the players that have been brought in and the players that we now have to suit the more direct passages of play, or suit the long balls, or, you know, suit the fullbacks overlapping, all of this stuff we didn't have last season. So is it a question of Amorim has changed his tactics, or is it a question of he now has the players to do so? If that makes sense. I also just really quickly, one final point. I do think to the Amorim outers who's saying, oh, he's come round, you know, he's seen the light and he's tweaked tactics. I will say this. I have noticed two things. We seem to play a lot better when Ahmad's on the pitch. If you look at, again, like the games that we lost, was it Arsenal, particularly Arsenal, Grimsby, Brentford, Ahmad wasn't playing. And I'm not saying like it's not all down to one person. It's a team sport. I get that. But I think that Ahmad exemplifies, like, his positioning has been amazing. Like, it's been great. His positioning, the way he runs, like the overlaps, everything. Running, sometimes he runs into midfield to be that extra man. And that's why I think all of a sudden now we're seeing Bruno and Casemiro working, although that's a whole nother story. But they're working. The midfield is working just about for now. It's functional. But I think that has less to do with Bruno and Casemiro and more to do with the fact that we've either got Cunha dropping deep, or we've got Ahmad cutting into midfield. The defenders, the fullbacks, they're just coming in. So we're trying to not pack the midfield, but we're just trying to be a bit more protective. I also think that it's a great help. Casemiro's still been doing what he did last year, which is that one-touch passing, because obviously we all agree he doesn't have the legs anymore. He's still doing that. He's doing that this season. He was doing it last season. So that hasn't really changed. I don't know, you know, there's not some conclusion that I'm necessarily coming to here.
No, I agree. It's difficult because when you really, I think about it, you do come to that conclusion where you go, well, this is true, but this is also true. And this is also true. You know what I mean? And maybe it's not a case of maybe changing, more evolving. Maybe that's the better way to say it. You know, everyone's kind of evolving. The team's changing, the tactics are changing, the Premier League's also changing. JP's been a member for 40 months. Appreciate 40 months of support. My goodness. Says that the manager tweaked the tactics, but the players have upped their efforts. Cunha and Mbeumo have stopped deferring to Bruno, and Cass is organising Bruno. Arthur, let's come to you next. As we spoke about earlier on, you were there at the Sunderland game, the start of this. Are these things that you've seen throughout the season, that all right, Ruben has changed and gone a bit more direct, but also a bit like Steph's saying, but we've got the players to maybe do what Amorim is looking to do as well, which kind of helps things?
Yeah, no, I think I agree with like a lot of the points that have been made so far. I think obviously if you look at the run of form that we've had, you can pinpoint it to when Le Mans came in. So it's undeniable that has had an effect on our performance. Like, we all watched United last season, like the amount of times where like Onana would go to centre-back, the centre-back would go to Onana, he'd go to the other centre-back, they go back, they close in, and then we just go along anyway. And I feel like what that does, it just like creates nervousness in the team. If you've got a goalkeeper behind you, he doesn't even know what he's doing, he's not sure. How is that supposed to like fill you with confidence, you know? You've got Le Mans, he knows what he's good at. He's like, no, I'm not doing any of that. Let's just get it long, because he backs himself. He knows that's what he's good at. But I do also agree with the point made about Ahmad and Mbeumo on that right-hand side. You know, if you look at the first game against Arsenal, like you said before, Dalot started, you know, against City, I think Mazraoui started. And I genuinely think last season, that's why we struggled so much, because there was so many defenders on the pitch. And like, okay, we've got a back five and then two defensive fullbacks as your wing backs, and there's nothing going forward. And that right-hand side is just so important to everything that we do. And I agree with the substitutions thing. I don't necessarily think the substitutions are the issue. I think it's the substitutions that he's making are the issue. You know, like, as soon as we take Ahmad off the pitch, we lose all of our attacking threat. Like the same thing happened against Liverpool. We took him off. And then the last, we went from, okay, it's a bit nervy, but we can cause them harm to just right now we've got absolutely nothing going forward. And it just invites the pressure on us. So I think Le Mans coming in, and also the development of that right-hand side, like I said, first couple of games didn't start together. They're really starting to build a relationship together. And I also think confidence can do wonderful things. I really do think, obviously the Sunderland game, the first half, we played really well, but I'd be lying if I said the second half was great. Sunderland did dominate that, even though it's Sunderland at Old Trafford. But I genuinely think getting over the line at Anfield and the feeling that created, you can just see that the players look like they believe in what they're doing more. They look like they're playing together as a team more. And you could even feel it in the stadium. The atmosphere was best at Old Trafford I've seen for a while. It does feel like everybody's starting to believe a little bit more. And the guy with the super chat before about saving face, I'm not trying to save face. I'll stand by what I said. I wanted Amorim out, especially after that Grimsby game. I was like, this guy is clueless. When I saw him there with a little whiteboard markers, it's 4-4-2 long ball Grimsby, looking at the whiteboard. But I want to be proved wrong. I want to be wrong. I don't want us to have to sack a manager. At the time, it didn't seem like it was working. You can't deny it. The win percentage, the performances. But I want to be proven wrong, and hopefully Amorim can do that. And it's looking like that. But obviously, we've all got PTSD from United, haven't we? So, Saturday against Forest.
Game by game.
The whole feeling. But yeah, I think those are the main reasons why things have started to turn around. But yeah, and you notice it from the subs, because he needs to stop making those substitutions, because we get worse every time he does them. Keep Ahmad on, maybe take Dallo off because he's not playing the best, but we have to keep Ahmad on the pitch.
Yeah, I agree. The drop-off, particularly at the weekend, was unbelievable. But Ahmad, Cass coming off made such a difference. Firms, what are you saying about it? Obviously, you've been critical of Amorim at different points. Is he showing tweaks, adaptation? Is it just we've got better players? What are you saying about the whole thing?
First of all, big up the panel, man. Big up Steph,
yes.
DJ, for yourself. And big up Charlie, big up Kenny, man. It's always nice to chat. Look, for me, I've been critical. I'm doing me. I haven't even got time for the noise in terms of saving face. I ain't got time for that. I think anyone that criticized Amorim for not being able to win 2 games back to back is well within their right to criticize a manager that hasn't won a game back to back. Let's not be silly here. So all those people that criticize, big you up. All those people that are now gaining a bit more confidence, big you up. But it's funny how just thinking about all of this, and I do feel like Amorim is slightly adapting within the confines of staying true to his system. He is tweaking in a sense, and it's funny because I listen to, and you need to, because I listen to managers. There's been a lot of interviews coming out. Maresca's come out with, I think he was talking about speaking to Postecoglou, and he said how he prepared for a back 4 with Sunderland, and then they came out with a back 5 that he told his team to scrap it moments before the game, and obviously that led to a crash out there. We talk about, you hear Slot complaining about long balls, and I'm sitting there thinking, is this what it's come to? When Slot was smashing teams back to back, he wasn't complaining, he wasn't crying. The minute now the league is adapting to you, you're there crying. The minute now Maresca team switches a formation, you have the audacity to be talking and spilling your guts to national TV about how someone changed their formation. Isn't this what we're supposed to be doing? Isn't this the name of the game? Do you understand? And I feel like these teams think they can come against Man United and a back 5, and they know who's going to start, who's going to play. No, Amorim is finally making certain adjustments and certain tweaks. And if you pay the price for it, you pay the price for it. As far as I'm concerned, you need your plan A's and your plan B's and your plan C's as a manager and a coach, especially in the most competitive league in the world. You need to be on job. So that out of the way. Now, in terms of the tweaks, right, from what I've noticed is, I see, obviously the issue in the midfield has been glaring. We've usually had your Bruno's joining attacks, and sometimes Casemiro left by himself, and Ireland or whoever's playing in that more defensive role next to him. And what I've realized is a twofold. I've noticed off the ball we have Cunha and then Bumo dropping in and like providing like a flat like midfield, providing more bodies in the middle. And I've also noticed as well when we're like most people have, with Delit pushing forward high up and Shaw pushing high up and man marking your Rutters or your Welbecks as well. And then you have Ahmad tucking in as well. And also one of the other things I noticed as well, and I think he's trying to do some of the things that he's done in the past, but it just hasn't come off effectively. And I think he's trying to understand what personnel is able to do it. Like where you have the Brentford game where you had Maguire, the last man, and he had no chance of winning a foot race. Do you know what I mean? In this instance now against Brighton, what you would see is Euro being like the last man, or where you've seen in the past Dorgu being the last man. You remember when I can't remember who he clipped, but he clipped someone, he could have got a red card.
Yeah.
Maybe like decision making and that composure when you're the last man. So now you've got people in there that may have the legs, but also have a bit more composure and decision makers. I think he's trying to think about who can do the jobs that he wants him to do and pull it off effectively. And also when you get those W's as well, you would somehow find that that person that couldn't do that job before can now do that job now because they're just filled with confidence and they got a bit more sauce in their game. And I think that's what's happening. What we're seeing with Manchester United is maybe guys that was given instruction before to carry out certain things now being able to do it with a bit more of swagger because we've managed to scrape a win there. Look, we can't see the best football of Manchester United until when Manchester United is able to put together a run. Like, you would never see the best football of Man United if we're doing win-loss, because we will never have that. Like, Man United need that confidence. We need that momentum to be able to see that type of football on a consistent basis that we all like. So for me, I feel like that's a big bonus that we've been able to see a free team, like a 3-game run, and long may it continue, man. And for me, I think like with the compacting of the midfield, where I'm saying like Mbemu and Cunha is dropping in and the centre backs are pushing up as well, I think a lot is heavily got to be around like this, winning the second balls. So that whole thing about when the ball bounces, who's going to get that second ball? Who's going to win it? Because we see a lot of the time, and it's becoming more and more evident in football, that those second balls are becoming very pivotal. They're becoming key for a lot of games. And I think that Manchester United and Amorim is learning that second ball, you need to win it. And I think we're very aggressive in when we lose that ball, we're trying to get that ball back, or when that ball like drops out of the air, we're making sure that we're on it, and then we're quickly turning it over. So I think that that's also something that he's picking up during the game and tweaking as well. And I think another thing as well is the long balls. So obviously, for me, like I was saying, I don't see why. I know it might not be attractive, like the tiki-taka football is good, like we're used to it. I mean, that's the football that's won a lot of titles with your Peps and your Barcelonas and everything of late. But I feel like if Arsenal win the league, touch wood, if Arsenal win the league, playing this football, I promise you that more and more teams will be putting a lot more emphasis on what the style of football that Arsenal's doing, because that is what is shown to be effective. Look, you've got Slot crying, saying, 10 men are behind. He's crying that, Brentford had 10 men behind the ball and you ain't got Salah that can whip in a curler because he's being marked out the game. Look, more and more people's going to be thinking about crosses more than ever. It's not like it's been eliminated out of it, but people be thinking about that more, getting their own set piece specialist coaches and putting a lot more emphasis on that and corners, etc., etc. So I just feel like people will go with the trend of what is working. Whether it's ugly or nice, they're going to follow it. The inverted fullbacks, all of that malarkey, they will follow it. They are, because the game's changing. And that's just my take on it, man.
Really quickly, but it's whether you have the caliber to do that. Like, if you look at an Arsenal, I think somebody, correct me if I'm wrong, is that like 63% of the goals they scored this season are from corners and free kicks. I mean, they're set piece specialists. Like, they're phenomenal. Like I'll give them that. But it's all very well saying, oh yeah, let's do a bit of this inverted fullbacks and we'll copy this and we'll go with the trend. But if you don't have the tools to do the job, then it's really tricky. Like if you look at we've been taking corners, and when we take corners, Bruno and Buemo, I'm trying to think of who else, like this season, who usually takes corners. They're not your Declan Rices. Do you know what I mean? They can't just drop it on pinpoint on someone's head. If we can work on that, I fully agree that that's something that we should do. And just finally, really quickly, to your point about Arne Slot complaining or moaning about like how there's like 10 man behind the ball and all of this long ball. That's the kind of football that they've been playing. I mean, I'm talking back even with Jurgen Klopp when Trent was just pinging from right back, just pinging long diagonal balls across the field. Like, what's he complaining about now? Just because he's not reaping the rewards of that? Please shut up. I hate
100%.
No, I agree. I agree as well when it comes to our set pieces. We've been rubbish for set pieces for years. Remember when we signed Maguire, it was going to be like, right, we've got someone that's going to be winning headers all the time, whatever. And now apparently he's like a backup striker. DJ, you watched the game with me on Saturday. What have you made of the reaction since then about the discussion about whether or not things have been tweaked or changed? Is that what you're seeing, or did you see, like kind of Charlie alluded to earlier a little bit as well, just the XG's been high all season. Now we're just putting it in the back of the net, not all that different.
I think at the start of the season, we saw flashes of kind of what the system can produce and the tactics can produce, but they just weren't paying off. And I was someone that was actually saying Amorim out because I'm a results man. And at the end of the day, the results just wasn't backing anything really. We can have all the XG and everything in the world, but if you're not getting the results, that's what truly matters. No one's going to remember XG when you're lifting titles. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of where I was coming from. But have I seen a change? Have I seen tweaks? I definitely think he has tweaked stuff within his system. So the formation hasn't changed. He's just tweaked how he's using everybody, and he's playing to everybody's strengths. If you look at the likes of obviously Mbumo and Ahmad, they've got a great partnership developing on that right hand side, and most of our attacks are going through there at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see when we get newer players in. I think you'll see an evolution of what he's doing now, but I think he's working with what he's got. He's trying to play to the strengths, but also on the rest defense, he's trying to have numerical superiority in the middle. And that is key because we've all been called Donut FC for the last few seasons. Oh, look how quick the midfield gets bypassed. And do you know what? In some games, it still will get bypassed. But I think what he's doing, he's giving us a fighting chance tactically with how he's positioning his players. So as everyone's been saying, Ahmad will tuck in. Even Cunha sometimes drops back to help in the midfield, especially when we haven't got the ball. And I think he's just making us more resolute, more stubborn for teams to not be able to just walk through our midfield. Because if you look at our midfield, it's really unbalanced at the moment. Cass and Bruno, they're doing the best job that they can, but that's not really going to be our first-class midfield if we can get the players that we want to come in. So I think he's just trying to do a job where we can get the best out of them and also help the team. If you notice, Cass rarely takes a lot of touches on the ball. He rarely takes a lot of touches on the ball. And in years previously, under the previous manager, he was expecting Cass to take loads of touches, ping balls forward, but that's not necessarily his game, and he was getting caught time and time again. So tactically, he has tweaked things. However, the formation is the same. But I think he's just given us more of a fighting chance. And now the players, as you can see, confidence is up. We went 3-0 up. You saw the happy smiles. Amorim was afraid. I think when the first goal went in, he didn't really celebrate that much. After the second and third, he was celebrating. At the end of the day, he's human. So he's going to be prone to, the criticism and stuff like that. But for the most part, confidence is such a powerful thing. And look, 3 games, the world's been turned on its head with Manchester United. Do you know what I mean? He's actually finally had a bit of a break from the negative news and stuff like that. So Amorim proved me wrong in the sort of like immediate time. He's proven me wrong. But consistency. That's what we all want as fans. We want consistency. No point getting those good wins through on the bounce and then to lose horribly to Forest. So, I think me and you said it on the match view. Just isolate the games. Don't think too far ahead. Just game by game, and let's handle our business.
Easier said than done, mate. You know what I mean? No, I mean, I still remember you getting very upset about the stoppage time in that game as well. 7 minutes.
I'm
7 minutes.
Where did it come from? I'm still asking, where did it come from? Yeah. 7 minutes. Where did that come from? Man.
If you haven't already, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Let's see if we can get to 250, 300 likes. Interestingly, this evening, just away from all the talk about tactics and what have you, Fabrizio Romano has said that West Ham have contacted Manchester United to inquire about the situation of Joshua Zirkzee on loan, but also Kobbie Mainoo. But Manchester United are not open to any negotiations at the moment. Charlie, you're shaking your head, maybe with the idea that Kobbie could go to West Ham. You're probably going to end up getting relegated. But aside from that, there have still been the rumours about him possibly going in Jan. Same with Zirkzee, maybe Napoli interested, etc. There have been other reports saying that United are going to block them because they're going to become key players, particularly around AFCON time. What do you see in terms of their futures? Do we have to worry about either one of them leaving?
I think I'm not too worried about Zirkzee in the sense that if he did leave, I don't think it would be a huge loss. I think I actually quite like. I think he's a decent player, but I wouldn't be losing sleep if Zirkzee did leave. And I think the signing of Matheus Cunha for me sort of told me what the club think of Zirkzee, because if you think how many players we've got in those interior areas, we've got Cunha, we've got Mbuemo, we've got Ahmad can play there, Mount can play there, Bruno can play there, Kobbie can play there, Zirkzee. We've just got so many players for two spots, because I don't think Amorim sees Zirkzee as I don't think he sees him as his type of number 9 as well. So I think if Sesko, God forbid, were to get injured for a long spell, I think you'd probably see Cunha as the number 9 for a lot of it, and you'd probably see Mason Mount playing as the left 10. So I'm not too worried about Zirkzee. I think the Cunha signing told us all we need to know about. I don't think the club are probably planning to keep Zirkzee for the sort of long distant future. I think the Mainoo one is something that's quite interesting, because whenever you tweet about Kobbie Mainoo, some of the stuff you get is just, I think it's absolute madness. So you either get,
yes,
I personally think he's one of Manchester United's best players, and I would be finding a way to try and get him into the team. But again, I think the signing of Cunha for this system sort of told me again, Amorim doesn't trust Kobbie as a number 6 as part of that pivot, because Casemiro has to play because he's our only big, strong midfielder that's got any presence. And Bruno has to play next to him in Amorim's eyes, because we need somebody next to Casemiro who can cover a decent amount of ground. And that I don't think Amorim trusts Kobbie to do that. And I don't think Amorim has Kobbie ahead of Cunha or Mason Mount as the left number 10. So we are in a bit of a predicament. But in my opinion, I think a lot of people were quite critical of Kobbie on Saturday. And what I would say is, number one, it's very, very hard to come on and sort of show yourself when you're not getting a lot of minutes. It's very, very, very difficult. I know when you're 3-0 up, it's easier. But Kobbie Mainoo came on for Casemiro. And Manchester United's biggest mistake in the last however many years has not been recruiting in the midfield well enough. And because Casemiro has to play, Amorim doesn't trust Kobbie next to him, because he doesn't think there's enough legs in there. But then he's took Casemiro off for Kobbie, and you've got Kobbie and Bruno as a pivot, which obviously, again, isn't very well balanced at all. And you had Kobbie Mainoo as the furthest midfielder back towards our own goal, trying to defend transitions, which just isn't his game. Yeah. So it's a bit of a tough one. For me, I don't think we'll see the best of Kobbie Mainoo under this manager, unfortunately. And I think Manchester United is better off with Kobbie Mainoo than Ruben Amorim, to be totally honest with you. If I had to, I don't like doing this player FC stuff, but I think Ruben Amorim's system and the way he wants to play, the ceiling is very, very capped. And I think particularly with the way we're going with the long balls and stuff, I don't mind it in isolation. But once you go down this path of pragmatism and working on second balls, long balls, etc., it's very, very hard to go back to what you were trying to do before. And I'm very, very concerned in that aspect. So I think, yeah, we've won 3 in a row, but I'm concerned for the long term under the manager. And I just don't think that, I think with evidence of what other teams are doing in the league, I know what Steph is saying about the long balls and the set pieces, but Arsenal still have, if you look at their in possession patterns, they still build out from the back more or less all the time. They're still far ahead of us, and they've got better personnel than us. Let's be honest, that is true. But I think if you look at the intentions, Ruben Amorim doesn't want to dominate games with possession. He's shown that since he come to Man United. We win more games when we have less of the ball. So I think that's why Kobbie Mainoo won't get the best out of him under Amorim, because Kobbie Mainoo won't succeed in a system where you're not going to have the most of the ball. Unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. So I understand people saying he's one player and what has he done in the last few months? But without Kobbie Mainoo, we probably don't win the FA Cup. Let's be totally honest. He was absolutely instrumental to that. He played excellently well for England in the Euros. And I think there's a bit of revisionism recently about Mainoo being crap that I just don't think is fair, because the environment around him isn't right. We're not playing to his strengths. And he's one of those players that he's not a Bruno Fernandes, where Bruno Fernandes can go into any system and sort of, because of his nature, the way he plays, he can sort of get by, and he maybe doesn't need the best balance. Whereas with a Kobbie Mainoo type player, you need balance around that player, because he needs to, out of possession, you know his weaknesses. He needs to have that freedom to impact on that sort of left centre midfield position. So that's, sorry, that was long, but that's the way I see it.
I think it just raises the uncomfortable truth, doesn't it? I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head, and I think the answer is kind of there, staring at us in the face. I think Ruben just doesn't rate him. If we're just being completely honest, he just doesn't rate him. We rate him because we've seen what Kobbie can do before Ruben even stepped through the door. But unfortunately, and it was one of the reasons why I was hammering him out for a while, is because he put Kobbie up against Bruno. And I said even before in a previous show, that's an unfair fight. They're not even in the same weight class. So expecting Kobbie to be Bruno, essentially, or have the same dynamism as Bruno, I think's wrong. I really think it's wrong. And I just, honestly, I don't see where he fits into the team. I think the formation isn't suited for him. I think a 3-man midfield would be perfect for him. It provides the balance, it provides the stability, it provides him with that safety net. But putting him, what he did with putting him and Bruno together, I think that, hey, look, I'm a conspiracy theorist, right? It seemed a bit cruel, because what you're doing is basically exposing Mainoo further into his weaknesses, right?
I think he hung him out to dry. Is that what you're saying, TJ?
I'm not saying that, but make of it what you will.
Sounds
I
like
might have
it.
implied it, but I'm not saying it. I won't directly say it. But I'm just
tinfoil.
But I'm just thinking. Think about it. If he knows, and he's mentioned that in press conferences and interviews, he said, Kobbie running back to it's his weakness. He doesn't cover the ground as well. He probably covers the first 15 yards, and after that he falls off. So if that is the case, why would you then put him with Bruno, expecting him to be the more deeper playing player? That's just what I'm saying. I think it's just a bit silly, but yeah.
The issue is he doesn't want to. The issue is he's not going to play him as a 10, is he? He's not giving him enough opportunities as a 10. And we know that he's tidy in and around that box. We've seen what he can do in and around that box. He just doesn't want to give him enough opportunities around.
He's not going to be over Cunha. He's definitely not going to be over Mount. And he can only really play in the left side, isn't left 10, really.
From a sub perspective, though, I mean, if you're subbing, like, yeah, okay, if he's not starting, but if he's coming off the bench, like against that Brighton game where he thought it was done and dusted, right? He made those 3 substitutions, one being Mainoo. I mean, you know that Bruno's not going anywhere. He's never getting subbed. So therefore, if Mainoo's going to get any game time, it is going to be alongside Bruno. If he's going to be playing in that 6th position or whatever it is, and it's just like you said, the balance isn't there. And I think the only way where you can help protect this guy is if he plays in a 10 position, and he needs minutes there. And for me, I understand what everyone's saying about him the system not being right for him. I do get it. I'm just really struggling to see a world where Manchester United is playing against Mainoo, or Mainoo's like I'm still struggling to get my head around that one. But I understand what you meant.
For me, it's not about the system for me. I think what it is about game time. And Kobbie Mainoo should be playing tonight, because we should still be in the Carabao Cup. Joshua Zirkzee should be playing tonight, like every other Premier League team. We should still be in that Carabao Cup. You then have a different argument about Mainoo and your Zirkzees and whoever else is the fringe players, because you will then have an opportunity to see how they work in an Amorim system, albeit against, in the Carabao Cup, and it may be less opposition. Were the lad's unfortunate, right? And I'm not saying Zirkzee's unfortunate, because I would never have bought him, and he would have gone for me at the beginning of the season. I'm just not a fan of Joshua Zirkzee. I never have been, never will be. Right, but with Mainoo,
what did he do to you, Kenny? My goodness!
I had a chance, man. Jeez.
Yeah. Good job. Bradley's not on. So anyway, so Mainoo, honestly, I feel sorry for the lad, because once again, You're paying 60 million here, you're paying 50 million there, you've got Mount, who costs a small fortune. Mount has not done anything wrong this year and has been reasonably fit. Cunha has been excellent. And Mbumo, excellent. If I look going backwards, who'd you leave out the team to put him in? The lad just cannot get the minutes. He cannot get the minutes. And it is likely that I think that if we're in the top, let's say, for example, we're around the top 4 in February, Kobbie Mainoo is not going anywhere. That lad's staying. But it doesn't do him any favours because he won't have had the game time. So if, heaven forbid, something did happen to one of those midfielders, Agati Mac is coming in or whatever, but Mainoo will not have had the opportunity, I think, to develop in that role and understand. We've all spoke, lyrically about Nerd and Ahmad drops back, Shaw steps up, this and another. You can only learn your position if you are playing in that team. You watching it off the bench, you can't learn that. You can't learn it in training. That's got to be on the pitch. And I'll go back to what I said before. Kobbie Mainoo's problem is the fact that we lost against Grimsby. Because if we'd have won against Grimsby and then beat Sheffield Wednesday, he would be playing tonight, that lad. And he'd have his chance. He would have an opportunity. He will not get an opportunity.
I think
he's got too many people in front of him. Sorry,
just got too many
people in front of him. Just too many. Like, we know Mount's a favourite, isn't it? Yeah, Mount's a favourite.
Okay.
Yeah, Mount's a favourite. Cunha's definitely a favourite. And in the midfield, he's going to Bruno. Unless Bruno falls out, God forbid.
We've waited 18 months. We've waited 18 months to go on a run of winning games. We've now won. We have. So what we're going to do? If let's say, for example, now he drops Casemiro at weekend and puts Mainoo in, right? We lose. We are screaming and saying, "What we take Casemiro out for and put Mainoo in?" That's just how football fans are. You cannot change. And yes, you can change a winning team, but I don't think you can. You've got to apply that principle of what was said. And the lad's just unlucky. The lad is seriously just, and it may go against him. It may go against Manchester United because he will turn around at some stage and say, "I want away." Because you're just not giving me the opportunity.
Well, he already did, didn't he, in the summer? He already said he wanted to go on loan in the summer.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look what's happened to Scott McTominay. Scott McTominay's shortlisted for the Ballon d'Or. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Steph.
But it's true.
Chief hater. Come on.
Listen,
you doubt him.
Okay, let's get back on the straight and narrow. I'm not here to chat about.
No, but the point I'm making is,
I want to say, but
McTominay wanted away, didn't he? McTominay couldn't get he wasn't a regular starter. He was coming off the bench. He was doing okay off the bench. He wasn't a regular starter. A big club coming for him. He's gone. Gone.
Right.
And he was doing more than Kobbie coming off the bench as well. McTominay was coming on scoring goals, winning games.
Absolutely.
I would. Yeah. Well, I mean, no. Let's be fair. Kobbie Mainoo has scored some important goals in the past. Like maybe not necessarily under Amorim, but we all know he's capable of doing that. For me personally, I would not want to. I'd be more open to selling Xerxes than Mainoo. That's just a preference. I know that they're not a similar profile of player, really. But going back to Kenny, what you were saying, I just can't imagine a world where we're playing against like Kobbie Mainoo is our opposition. I do think that the likes of the Xerxes, the Ugates, the Mainoos, they have Onana to thank for their lack of game time. You call it unlucky, but really the dip in their career and their dip in game time is all down to the fact that we got thrown out the Carabao Cup. Why did we get thrown out the Carabao Cup? Onana's not even here. Like that would just, me personally, if I was Mainoo, that would piss me right off. It would piss me off. Then having the opportunity to come on, so Amorim's giving him a lifeline, as it were, to come on and replace Casemiro and be alongside Bruno. It just doesn't work for Mainoo. I see the chat saying, "Oh well, Mainoo's just too slow. Like he's not like fit enough, or this or that." But if you look at Casemiro doesn't have legs. The main difference between Casemiro and Mainoo when they play next to Bruno is Casemiro is a one-touch passer. He knows that he doesn't have the legs to run. He might fly into a tackle, pick himself up a yellow card, right? But Mainoo is a hybrid of that. He doesn't really want that. His game, it's not one touch passing. It's not like that. And I feel like if you're going to stand next to Bruno in the midfield, that's the kind of shit that you need to do. Excuse my language. That's the kind of style that you need to play. That's the kind of passing, the quick one-touch passing. Mainoo's not about that. So I don't necessarily think it's the system, Amorim's system as a whole, that doesn't suit Mainoo. I think it's just the fact that we have Bruno in the team and Bruno's not going anywhere. If you change Bruno and you have a different profile of midfielder, Mainoo, I think he would be perfect.
I always say that. Sorry. I always
go ahead.
Bring it back to Palace midfield, right? You have the Will Hughes, and then you've got the Adam Wharton, and then you look at the speed or physicality, or all of those traits that you would say, the legs. I don't see any of them being quicker or stronger or anything like that from a physical attribute that is miles ahead of what we're talking about as Mainoo. And it just makes me think in terms of why is it that Mainoo's not working? I mean, you see him for England. He's bossing it. He's running the show. And I know it's not the Premier League. I know that
he's in a free though, firms, man. He's in a free there. And also with United, one of his biggest weaknesses for me, Kobbie Mainoo, for all the talent, is his passing range. He doesn't have the passing range in the centre midfield. He can play the short passes. Great. If you want to keep possession, he could do that. But passing through the lines and hitting the passes that we want to have, even Cass can pick a pass in the middle of the pitch. He can hit those. He can switch the play. He can do that. But Mainoo, that's one of his biggest weaknesses. I think is just his passing range that lets him down.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that's why if you look at what Amorim's, what he's getting out of Bruno, I mean, he lives for it. He lives for his type of passes. And in my mind, I feel like let's not forget that Mainoo is a quality player. I mean, in the right team, in the right system, he is £100 million player potentially. You're looking at there. I mean, I think that the fan base that forget that because he comes on in a team like this and is partnered next to Bruno, and all of a sudden, they're not seeing the best performances and calling in that. I think that he's losing a bit of respect on his name, and mainly serious. I mean, under a three-man midfield, like you said, look, if he's got a Declan Rice next to him, a Jude Bellingham in front of him, he's chilling. Do you know what I mean? And I just feel we need to think about that before.
And just the last thing, just quickly, just on that topic. One of the things why Casemiro obviously right now is undroppable is because he just knows the position. He's had enough hours, enough reps in that position. And even though as he's gotten older, he's lost a yard of pace, he still knows where he needs to be positionally. He still can, his timing's right. Where Mainoo, I feel, is just more, obviously he's more athletic. So he's relying more on his physical attributes. He's relying more on his legs. He's relying more on his strength to be able to do the role. But with Cass, he's a master at the role. So Cass will not have to sprint 20 yards, 30 yards. He will play the ball, or he'll make sure he's in the right position to stop the opposition's attack. So, yeah, it's really unfortunate for Mainoo, man. But I think we should try and keep him and find a way.
I just can't.
Yeah, Arthur, I was going to say, what are you saying, Arthur, about Kobbie? Are you worried about his future?
I love Mainoo. He's like one of my favourite players, local lad, and when he burst onto the scene for us, like, and won us the FA Cup, like everybody, I don't know a single United fan who wouldn't say at that time he was our favourite player. But like Amorim's been with us since November. Like, you have to, if you were Amorim and you're watching Mainoo play in this system, like, he's not giving him a reason to pick him. Like, I can't think of a good game Mainoo has had for Amorim since Amorim's come in. I think one time he played well against like Steaua Bucharest when we won like 2-0. Yeah. Come on, do you know what I mean? Like, in that system, with the pace of the game, like I've said to a lot of my mates, I even remember when he was balling out at the Euros and everyone was hyping about him, and like I love Mainoo. But I always said, like, one thing that he lacks is like positional awareness. I don't really feel like he reads the danger or senses the danger. And that's the thing with Casemiro. Like, even though, he's lost half a yard of pace, he just knows. It's like he can just read it. He almost sees it before it's even happened. And Mainoo doesn't have that sort of positional awareness or reading of the game. And I just think, like, if you look at Mainoo's sort of like highlights reel, all of his best moments, he plays best in the midfield three, in like tight little spaces where he can take nice little intricate touches, give and go, move. Like, I remember it was when we played Liverpool in the FA Cup and he dribbles past like 3-4 players and gets it round. That's his game, like these short little passes and like intricate touches. And when you're playing in a 3-4-2-1 and there's that massive gap in the midfield, he can't really cover the ground, you know. And I do agree what you were saying before about if we, let's say we get rid of Bruno and we get rid of Casemiro and we get some sort of like box to box, like a Rice type midfielder, then you can see Kobbie doing well in that system. But that, like, then you've got to get rid of 3 players just to fit him into it. You know, like you look at when Mainoo was playing best for us under Ten Hag, it was when we were actually playing like Bruno was like a false 9 and we had McTominay, Amrabat and Mainoo as that kind of like midfield 3. That's the team we won the FA Cup with. So when he's got someone else there, like there's not much space behind him and people can read the game and like sense out the danger and then he can just do his thing, then he's effective. But like, you have to be honest, like under Amorim, I've not seen him have a good game. Against Grimsby, he had an absolute stinker. And I love the guy. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I'd love Mainoo and I want it to work out. But if I was him, I would also, when you see an Ugarte getting brought on instead of him, that's happened a couple of times. He does not. Amorim doesn't trust him at all. So if I was Mainoo, I would want a loan move. Because like Charlie was saying before, we don't actually know how long Amorim's going to be here. If he gets a loan move, there's always the option to come back under a different system. But realistically, in this system, I can't see it work. I want it to work so badly, but the way Casemiro's been playing recently, like he's undroppable. He's actually like, he's like the key to our team. And also like Xerxes, like, I don't know if he's probably not watching this or like, but if you've got some friends watching this, Xerxes, don't go to West Ham. They are the stinkiest club in the league, man. Like,
yeah,
that'll be a big ending move for you, bro. Don't go to West Ham. Like, if you look at the way they're playing, like, and no disrespect to West Ham, like they've got a great fan base, you know, like I feel sorry for them, but the overall feeling that club right now and the way they're playing, don't go to West Ham. That is an absolute stink fest.
I agree. Bad move.
Xerxes either, like you just look at the way the type of players that Amorim likes. You see Ahmad, he's really physical, doing well in the system. Cunha, so physical, and Buemo, like strong, fast players. Those are the types of players that Amorim wants in his system to just attack very directly. And sometimes Xerxes, he looks like he's stuck in treacle a little bit, doesn't he? Like, do you remember that game last season where he threw on goal against Chelsea and he literally looked like he had like a train attached to him. Like he couldn't even move. Like that's just, I can't see either of them working in that system. And again, I don't have a problem with Xerxes. He's quite a silky player. Like he links the play up well, but when you've got that level of competition and we're finally starting to get a bit of chemistry, like I feel sorry for the guys, but I can't see him getting in.
A couple of super chats here, then we'll wrap things up. Ramazan says, if we continue this way or improve, we will beat Arsenal at the Emirates. Their worst game was against us, and we are playing much better now. Like, I suppose in the difference a couple of wins can make, isn't it? Vivek says, this someone saying, build a team around a 20-year-old. That's exactly what was being said. K-Flow says, even as a 10, he doesn't have the tenacity Amorim wants or sees in Mountain Cunha. It's less about Kobbie and it's more about what Amorim wants. Arake says, when was Mainoo bigger than United? Team before individual. The reason Mainoo isn't getting game time is Carabao we lost and he was playing. And David T says, are we factoring injuries and cover in all of this? Well, this is the reason they're suggesting why he's not going to go anywhere. And Xerxes is not going to go anywhere because when AFCON comes around, you've got Ahmad, you've got Mbumo, you've got others that are going to be in that tournament. So that's maybe where people will get their chances. FA Cup starts, and if we do qualify for Europe next season, suddenly we need a much bigger squad. And maybe it's just a this season thing. And next season, it'll be totally different. Time will only tell. Big up to the panel. Appreciate everyone sharing their views, getting their opinions in. Big up to Charlie. Big up to Arthur on his debut. Big up to Steph. Big up to Kenny. Big up to DJ. Big up to Firms. And big up to you, the viewer. If you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe to United View if you haven't already. We'll be back same time tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. And then what's on tomorrow? Oh, yes, Trafford Talk tomorrow with James and myself on Muppeteers, who's been patting himself on the back recently. Whoa. I'll have some conversations with him. Anyway, guys, enjoy your evening, and we'll be back same time next week. We're out of here. Peace.